The world of Berserk is vast, and as a result it is populated with a number of neat characters. With the announcement that the story of Berserk will continue under the guidance of Studio Gaga, I think this is as good of a time as any to revisit some of our characters and guess how they can affect the flow of the story. With the big pillars of Guts and Griffith standing on opposite sides, it's pretty obvious that they will play vital roles, but I think there are just as many characters that can come in and affect the story in subtle but important ways. In my past video, we briefly went over some of those, including those in Riker's growing party, which can potentially become a dangerous force, or Rakshas, who is essentially a ticking time bomb at Griffith's side. Having said that, let's take a look at 5 more characters that I believe can play quite important parts in the chapters to come. Let's start off big, with Farnese's father and head of the greatest noble family within the Berserk universe in Federico the Vandemian III. With the house's possession being rumored to eclipse your average nation, Federico is a cunning leader, even installing family members in key positions throughout the realm. With his hands reaching into what seems to be every facet of life, Federico either influences how things work or simply dictates it fully. He has hands in the church through his son Poliziano, has control over the economy through his other son Giorgio, and indirectly has control over military affairs through his ability to fund armies single-handedly. Now, that's cool and all, but why exactly is that important? Well, if I know anything, it's that control freaks can't just have some control, they need to have all the control. As such, Griffith can be seen as an obstacle to this goal, undermining his stranglehold, and Federico could use his family's reach to throw wrenches into Griffith's perfect kingdom. With the Holy See being so closely allied to Griffith due to the visions that the Pontiff had seen, I think it's intriguing that Kentaro specified that Poliziano is the next likely candidate to the Pontiff's position should something happen to the current one. Additionally, while Griffith has access to a nigh unlimited amount of monsters to form his army, the Vandemian seems to have funds to form their own armies to match them, maybe not in quality, but at least in quantity. Apart from the general need for control, I think Farnese also creates a compelling motivation, as Federico could see this as an opportunity to finally tame the wild child, should he provide aid to the group against Griffith. In any case, I feel that he must have some role to play in the near future. Staying within the realm of the Vandemian family comes Roderick, and looking back, there was actually some build up to his introduction. With Farnese accepting a fiancée in exchange for transportation, we were left to speculate what kind of person Roderick could be, and considering Berserk's track record, I do think Farnese got off lucky, as Roderick seems to be surprisingly normal. I mean, normal generally, of course, as to be even potentially tied to the Vandemian family does require some level of connections, and Roderick does fit that bill. Not only is he the figurehead of the East Fleet, he's even third in line for his country East's throne. And while that sounds impressive, you might be wondering, what is East? And to be honest, not much is known. All we do know is that East is an isolated nation renowned for their ability to build and command ships on the seas, and that makes them the foremost naval force in the world. In fact, the fleet of their ships make up the focal point of the Holy Sea's naval forces. And for better or for worse, Roderick does seem to be quite attracted to Farnese, who has pretty much become a Guts party mainstay and has become a staunch ally in recent times. He is also surprisingly competent on multiple levels. His abilities as a ship captain had him face off multiple enemy ships, and every time Roderick's seahorse has come out on top. Even off of his ship, he's surprisingly competent, being able to slay monsters without too much difficulty, and he is quite physically fit. Of course, not to the level of Guts, but he didn't need to be to save a drowning Guts. If Roderick ends up having any sway in the East's nations, we can see Guts gain access to the incredible allies and simultaneously deal a powerful blow to the Holy Sea's might, which in turn weakens Griffith's overall force. Sure, he might only be third in line at the moment, but things change quickly in times of war, and even before joining up with Guts' party, he had made a name for himself for his naval prowess. While these two individually could be worth their own little section, in my predictions, this would be a one or the other kind of situation, and whoever turns would cement the other's place near Griffith. To quickly skim over, this all comes down to both's infatuation over Griffith, and I think, although the two coexist currently, I do believe that down the line I can see the two clash for Griffith's attention. On the one hand, Charlotte, who's currently in a semi-dream state, just being by the side of Griffith, can have her world crash down should the veil of perfection be lifted from her eyes. Additionally, Charlotte does have a history with other key figures of the original Band of the Hawk, or Band of the Falcon, depending on your translation, in Casca and Guts, with the most recent chapters seeing Casca being adopted by Griffith. The possibility of the two interacting is at an all-time high, and as a result, Charlotte could have first-hand accounts to what had happened in the times where she was not with Griffith. On the other hand, while we've seen Sonia being able to accept not being Griffith's female companion of choice, even making up some childish storybook interpretation of the current situation, I don't believe she would be okay with accepting a third person in Casca entering into the discussion. Although she is quite accepting even the darker sides of Griffith, she does also have an in to Guts' party through Shirky, as the two did have a friendly bond last time they met, and it turns out that a lot of those who like Griffith also ends up liking Guts with enough time. Her origin story of being saved by Griffith also mirrors Casca's almost to a T, and perhaps the end result might be the same. In summary, although I don't think both will switch sides, I do think that at least one of the two probably will. Finally, to top off this list of women comes the mother of all women, or something like that. With Griffith being a member of the God Hand as Femto, the scales feel incredibly tipped over to Griffith's side. However, while the God Hand are a group of incredibly powerful monsters or demons, there is nothing that fundamentally attaches its members to work with each other's best interests in mind. Sure, Guts' end goal of murdering all of them probably unifies them in some sense, but we don't see any true malice from Void, Ubik, or Conrad directly towards Guts' party, as their motivation seems to be more generally evil than directed evil. Of the God Hand members, the most outspoken among them, not called Femto, has been Slan, who has been shown having some sort of fascination regarding Guts. In her confrontation with Guts, she had a number of chances to actually eliminate him, but instead seemed charmed by his unreal resilience, and even when Guts finally fights back, she ends up leaving quite satisfied. Although I might be reaching here, I also think it's interesting that she is shown to be able to spawn creatures out of some sort of pool of blood, soil, and guts. And do we recall where Guts was first found? Well, it was from something quite similar, was it not? Interesting, no? If she does end up signing with Guts, I do think it would be on a temporary basis, much like Zod did during the Great War. I'm sure that Guts wouldn't really like it, but wouldn't necessarily deny her aid either. In conclusion, I'm sure I reached quite a few times during this video, but I think that's what makes the story of Berserk so great. The story has so far not disappointed, and we've been given a number of intriguing characters to work with. So yeah, what do you think? Is there any characters apart from the obvious ones that you think can swing things one way or another to Guts' favor? Do you think that the story will be much more straightforward than I'm imagining it to be? In any case, I hope you enjoyed this extra video of Berserk. Hope you guys are enjoying this experimental month, and hope you'll join us back next week for what we have in store. Have a nice one, dummies.